What is up? Are you stressed? Are you feeling anxious, maybe? Just out of sorts? Like, just there's so much in the world that you just can't control. Well, today you're in luck. This is the Existential Stoic Podcast, and we're going to talk about are you addicted to stress? Because most people are. And this is a listener suggested episode. So thanks, Mike W., again for another great topic. If you guys have ideas for episodes, you can email us. The email is right in the show notes, or you can leave a comment on YouTube, and we'd be happy to do your episodes. It's nice to do it back and forth. But with that, I'm Danny, my buddy Randy. What's up, Randy?
Hi, I'm Randy. I'm a stressaholic.
Yeah, right. I know. But we were just talking before we started recording, which is in hindsight, we probably should have just recorded all of that. But at any rate, what are you gonna do, right? Um, no, everybody, like literally everyone I talk to is like just a ball of stress anymore. And like you can see it, even if they don't say it, you can see it in their actions. Because they're like running around, like forgetting things they wouldn't normally forget, right? Like not getting things done and rushing on to the next thing, like all clear kinds of signs of like stress and like feeling like you don't have, I mean, because stress is effectively that feeling that we don't have control. I mean, that's how I always think of it. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if that's a good definition, but like, it's like we don't have control over our situation, our surroundings, and we're trying as hard as we can, overworking ourselves essentially, or getting in that fight or flight mentality to try and, wrestle control of a situation that effectively we can't control.
hmm Yeah, and it's like nonstop. It's never ending.
Yeah,
Like back in the day, there was only, you could only work when you were at work. And there was only, dude, I remember rainy days when I was a kid. They sucked. There was
yeah,
nothing
you
to
get
do.
so
Like you were
bored.
bored out of your
Yeah.
mind.
Well, dude,
But
you
like
remember when we were
nowadays,
younger too? Everything closed on Sunday. Like there
hmm
was no like Sunday open stuff, and like now it's 24/7. And you're right, like you're worked with you all the time. Everybody's got a computer, a cell phone. Like you can always be contacted.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think partially it's because we don't know how to be bored anymore, or we're not given the opportunity to be bored. Maybe that took some of the stress out.
I actually think that's probably a good. I was thinking about that the other day that like, our the lack of opportunities to be bored, there's always distractions, there's always stuff to do, it seems like. Like that also took away a lot of opportunities for people to figure out what they want to do as well. And like actually like reflect on their lives. Like we don't have time to sit down. And when we do have time to sit down, we end up distracting ourselves with social media, Netflix, and all because you're tired and I get it. Like people are stressing, they don't want to think about their own life and the world
Mhm.
around them. But what they invariably do is then go on stuff that makes them think about the world around
And
them.
feel the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean I get the feeling that I'm addicted to stress because I even when I'm given the chance to like sit down and I don't have anything to do, I get really antsy and I have to go and do something else and just like do something else and do something else and do something else. And it all just causes stress because it's like even if 9 out of 10 things are going well, I just focus on that one thing that's
Yep.
not. And I'm just like poking that and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
This sucks.
Yeah.
Feel worse. It's and no, I like what you said there too, because I think that's true. Like that like that like energy where you can't sit still. That energy too, I think that also comes, there's just so many things that are like societal and systemic. That comes from that like this grind culture we've been told to believe in that like you just have to work harder and you just have to work harder and you just have to work, but you're getting less for it. You're always getting less for the work you're doing. So no matter how hard you work, it's like it's still paying less than it paid before, you know? And it's like I think people get caught in the cycle where they keep thinking, well, if I just do more, if I just, but it's like at a certain point, you also have a life. And I think that's
Mhm.
the other side of stress is like this stress also comes from the fact that like so many people are unable to even live their lives because they're so focused on all this bullshit that they can't even do the things they want to do, that would relax them, that would calm them down. And then it's like, and I think on the other side of it too, which is really sad, but like every media outlet out there, news, social media, everything is just trying to amp your emotions up to
Mhm.
500 on
Because then they
stress
can
and
hold your attention and make more
yep.
money off of you.
It's funny. Like I was thinking, I was saying it to my partner the other day. Like it's like every weather app now, if it's gonna drizzle outside, they're like, "It's Storm Charles" or whatever.
Extreme weather warning.
Yeah. Dude,
quarter inch of rain.
I got 50 warnings the other day and it was like drizzling. I was like, come on. Like, and I think that's all it is. It's all this like attention grabbing, clickbait BS, but it's like infiltrated everything in our lives. And it makes it impossible to like calm down, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's nuts. Like there was this series on Netflix that I just watched called Zero Day about like a cyber attack. And I don't watch the news, but just like in that series, it was like a political thing with a whole bunch of news. And that just watching that made me stressed because watching the news reports in a show on Netflix stressed me out. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine what it's like for people who watch the news
Oh,
on a
dude.
regular basis.
Well, you know what's funny is like I even told Anna too because I was like, I don't watch John Oliver anymore, which I used to love that show, but I can't watch it anymore because it's like it's all because even though he's making fun of it and he doesn't intend to, it's gotten so absurd that he's basically better news than the news. And it's sad,
Yeah.
but it's like but it's stressful and like and I was telling and she finally agreed too. I was like, just stop looking at it. I was like, this is stuff like, look. I know it sucks. Like there's stuff happening all over the world that's horrible, but there's literally nothing we can do about it. And like the flip side of that that cracks me up too that people don't realize is like you're even less equipped to help when you're just staring at that, amping yourself up. You're making yourself less equipped to help because you're
Come
making
on, I
yourself
can I can send my thoughts and prayers.
yeah, right. You're making yourself angry and stressed out though about stuff you can't change, and you're taking away your energy that you could put towards helping. If you really do give a shit, you could help. You could do stuff. You could raise
Well,
awareness, you know?
you know what's crazy is like as fucked up as everything is in the world, most people are trying to do the best they can. Like that's the crazy thing. And I think that's a big problem because the news and politics and all this makes it seem like other people are intentionally just being jerk
Yeah.
offs.
Yeah.
But like most people are trying to do the best that they can and they want the best world that they could possibly have. But it's just like I just I'm just think about this stuff and I'm just like, man, politics is like freaking retarded because it's a bunch of
Yeah.
people trying to convince other people to change their opinion. They're like, I will never change my opinion because it's the truth, but other people need to change their
Yeah.
opinion.
Well,
And
that's
it's just
like
like, well, if everybody has that opinion, then nobody's going to do anything other than fight.
Nietzsche said politics makes people stupid. And I totally agree because
It
what
definitely
it
attracts a certain
well,
type.
you know what? No, but even like you see it with even like people that are otherwise intelligent, right? Because it forces people to pick a side. And whenever you're forced to pick a side, you're instantly wrong. Just instantly wrong because it
Yeah,
takes
because
away
it's
all
not black or
perspective.
white.
No, nothing is. Everything's gradations, everything's matters of degrees, and usually the best solutions are compromises. That's usually what the everybody loses something, everybody gains something. That's usually the best
Hmm.
because then, every side's kind of managed. But what we've
Yeah.
turned it into is this black and white nonsense where, it's all or nothing. And so you're either a Republican or a Democrat and you believe in everything we say or you're the enemy. And it's like, dude, it's so
Yeah.
stupid.
And
But
it's not even like black or white anymore. It's like black or fish.
yeah,
It's like
that's really what it's become. Yeah.
it's like you're either for gun control or you think we should slaughter babies. And
Yeah.
it's like
Really?
okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good. Yeah, dude, it's
Yeah.
gotten so bad. And but that's part of that amping people up, right? And making them stress out and stuff. And I think
Hmm.
there is a point like where I remember when I did study abroad, one of the best things I got from that whole experience, because I was young when I did that. I was like what, like 20 or something. Was I realized like I went to Scotland, Amsterdam, went to Spain and stuff. It was really fun. And I just realized like traveling, like I thought it was going to be like culture shock and stuff. Because like I didn't speak all the languages to the places I went and stuff, like especially Spain and stuff, not well at least. But all I realized is like, oh, they're all just people trying to do exactly what we're trying to do. Yeah, their city might look different. They might have slightly different like, events and crap, but they're all just trying to most people are just trying to live the best life they can in the situation they find themselves in. It's not that hard to figure out, right? Like,
Hmm.
and I think that's a
Yeah.
really important thing to keep in mind. So,
I heard something recently about relationship problems, how generally they just come from uncommunicated expectations.
yeah,
And I've
that
been
makes
reminding
sense.
myself of that because I was just like, I look at all the relationship issues that I've had, and it's because I had expectations that somebody would act a certain way, and clearly they didn't share those expectations, or I didn't communicate what my expectations were. So it's like you can solve this stuff pretty simply, either by communicating or by lowering your expectations. It's
Yeah.
like,
And that's funny too because that you mentioned that because expectations can be a trap because you can easily without even realizing it set them at an unfair level. Like just
Mhm.
at a totally like where your expectations are an ideal and no one can be an ideal. Like that makes total sense. And the other part of it like yeah, dude, it's all communication. It's so funny, isn't it? Like I realized that very quickly like how many like it's so funny how we act like it's so hard to talk about these things, but once you open your mouth and talk about it, it's like instantly resolved.
Yeah,
Like even if it's not
seriously.
fixed, it's like resolved. That stress is gone, that weight. Because I think that's what people forget too, is like, and you don't when you're really stressed, you don't see it, but stress is it's like a pressure being pushed down on your shoulders. And
Hmm.
like there is a freedom when you get rid of it, like literally a
Yeah.
freeing moment. It's kind of
Well,
crazy.
it's interesting that you talk about that because I'm reading this book right now called "When I Say No, I Feel Guilty." It's kind of like assertiveness, a book on
I
assertiveness,
thought you were gonna say
but it
everybody
talks.
poops.
I know, right?
Reading is a really good book.
Yeah. Uh, but not everybody poops. Anyway, anyways, in that book, it talks about how basically, as humans, we're given a gift because every other species can only just like fight or flight
Yeah,
or freeze, maybe. But we're given the ability to use verbal communication, and so we can resolve stuff. But it's like beaten out of us from the time we're children,
yeah.
because like our parents are just tired from a day of work. So but we're a 2-year-old and we're just saying no to everything. And so like eventually we're just beaten down where we don't even use communication anymore at all. And whenever anything comes up where communication will probably solve it, we just
Well,
run or
yeah.
we fight or we
We
just
shut
freeze.
down. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's funny is like that is true. Like it's our greatest communication is probably one of our greatest abilities, literally, is the ability to communicate ideas, information, all this. And it always cracked me up because like all these political philosophers, like a lot of them that were like for like, democracy and stuff, they would argue that like, well, in a rational debate, good ideas will rise to the top. And it's like, yeah, that's such an ideal situation. You're acting as if everybody's philosophers, but they're not.
Yeah.
Like, and
Right.
it's like it's kind of funny when you think about how wrong they were about the regular person, but it's because of like what you said, like, right? It's beaten out of you over life. Like you don't talk.
And
You think that
dude,
people are against you. You interpret it as, right, a threat.
and also our emotions are so much stronger than any rational anything.
I know.
Like
Yeah.
I was getting down on myself because I made some impulse purchases. And like they were and so like I did some like writing about it to figure out, and they weren't actually impulse purchases because they were things that I wanted for years,
You just have
but they're
been
just
putting
like
off.
the
Yeah.
price is higher than I want to pay for something. And so
Yeah.
like I feel like buyer's remorse because I bought it and whatever. But I was looking at it and I was like, I shouldn't be so impulsive when buying. And I'm like, wait, since when am I truly rational? Like,
Yeah.
I, I'm emotional. I
But
make
it's
mistakes.
stuff like that too is hard because like I know I always whenever I make a big purchase, I always feel like there's a part of me that always feels bad about it later because I'm like I could just save the money, I could easily, but at the same time
But
it's like,
you never know what's going to happen in the future. It's
but
like,
that's just
damn, if I
it.
only knew.
You don't though, and like I'm like you, like I don't buy a lot of things. So usually
Hmm.
when I make a big purchase, it's something I've wanted for quite a long time. Like I'll use the example of that lens I bought. Like it was like 10 years that I wanted it. So when I got it, like yeah, like I use it all the time. So in hindsight, it wasn't a bad thing to do. And at some point, if I'm gonna get it, I have to pull the trigger, right? Like it's not gonna go down.
Yeah.
So,
Dude, it's one of those, yeah, it's one of those things where like if I was to die tomorrow or something, I'd be like, well, thank goodness I did it, you know? At least I tried it. But then if I were to live another 50 years and I run out of money and I'd be like, oh, if only I hadn't have spent that money, then I would have been able to, then I would be like, oh, why did I do that?
yeah.
So yeah, you don't know
Well, I'm glad
the
you brought this
future.
up too, because I think that was what Mike was interested in, was the stress that we all feel, how to deal with it, and the hedonic treadmill we get caught on, right? Of this, like, because I think in a consumer society, especially, like we are taught to deal with emotions by purchasing and by pleasure seeking, right? We're taught to
Yeah.
go find that dopamine hit. And
Yeah.
that's why people go on social media. That's why people go to the store and buy on the credit card, right? It's because like they're looking for this like momentary relief and even though those things might later come back and bite them in the ass, right?
Hmm.
They still want that momentary relief so bad. So what do we do to kind of maybe, or how do we
Well,
maybe get around this a little bit?
I think financial stresses are one of the biggest stresses out
Oh
there for
God, yeah.
people. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
whole bunch of things that contribute to stress, but financial stress is definitely a huge one. And I know for myself, before I learned about personal finance and before I got my cards in order or whatever the saying is, it was super stressful.
Oh God,
And
that's the
even
worst thing I ever faced. Yeah, it was horrible. Horrible.
yeah,
Yeah.
and even for like a long time while I was dealing with it, it was still super stressful. And I'm pretty sure I have like PTSD from like student loan debt.
Oh hell yeah, dude. Because
Like,
you feel like you can't even like live your life or like
yeah,
survive because like the
yep.
stuff gets so out of hand. Yeah, it just seems so impossible to overcome this obstacle. Like it really
Yeah, and
does.
it's like you're a young kid just getting out of school and like they're like the future's yours, but you have to pay $3,000 a month for
Yeah.
this BS education that you just got.
Yeah, and if
You
you
know?
want that payment to be made, you have to call and do all this bull stuff. And like so most people
Yeah.
just hide under the sand and don't do anything, you know? And like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So one of the, I mean, getting your finances in order can be challenging, but one of the best things I ever did for that was this course called Financial Peace University by Dave Ramsey. And it's it might turn some people off because he does have like a religious flavor to it, but he also like has been teaching personal finance for a long, long freaking time. He has a book called The Total Money Makeover, which is like a good book, but the Financial Peace University is like a legit course. You can go, they have classes all over the US. You go, I think it's, I don't know, a couple months or something like that. But that I literally look back to that because that moment changed my financial life. Like before that, it was all stress and everything with money and not understanding how it works. After that, I had a plan. And then if you work the plan, you can kind of
I think
find a
that's what
way
people
out.
forget when they hear the term budgeting. They think restrictions, but really what it
Hmm.
is a plan. It's a long-term plan to help you get to where you want to go. And I think that's like so that's a good point, right? So like these are things you can take action on. And I can say this for myself, like my student loans, like when I first got out, I couldn't make payments on. There was no way. And I got scared. But you know what I eventually did was called. And if you
Yeah.
call, you work something out that works for you so that you're making some progress and they will work with
Hmm.
you. And I think that's the important thing is like just taking steps too towards that direction you
Mm.
want to go. It
Baby
empowers you.
steps.
Yeah, it makes you feel like you have some control over it, right? It empowers you to keep
Hmm.
going. And it's funny because like even though my loans didn't go away, once I finally made that call, like a level of stress just like lifted off my shoulders because like, okay, it's finally getting taken care of now. Now I'm finally doing positive actions in the right direction towards it, and that makes all the difference.
And then a couple other things that I think are really helpful. One is we all know what causes us stress. It's not a surprise. Okay. So writing down a list, what causes me stress?
Yeah.
And doing less of that stuff. And then also writing another list, what do I need to do that I'm not doing?
Yeah. Because
That's another
that's stressful,
because
right? Those are
yeah,
stresses.
yeah, and those are things that you need to start doing. So like you have two lists there of things that contribute a lot to your stress levels. One, things that you know cause you stress. I'm going to guess watching the news,
Social
messing around on
media.
social media,
Yeah.
those will probably wind up on that list. And then the other list of things that you need to be doing, but you're not doing. So take the time away from those things that cause you stress and start putting that time towards the things that you're putting off. And the crazy stuff is like, it's always, for me, it's always taxes every year. And I put them off for so long, they cause me so much stress. And then I do them. They take me like a few hours.
I started doing mine the second as soon as I have all the documents, like they're sent to me, I just do
Yeah.
them now. And it's great
Yeah.
because they're done. And like that's it. I usually set aside a Sunday afternoon. I put a movie on and I just
There
sit
you
down
go.
and knock them out and they're done by the time it's done, you know?
Yeah.
And like
Yeah. I know.
it's not
Because they're
bad.
just, yeah.
But that's it though. It's just getting yourself in this habit too of doing these things. And I really like that idea of that list because like, dude, I'll be honest, I don't watch the news. I don't need to. I know what's going on in the world. I don't read newspapers. And
Dude, and everyone is more than happy to tell you the news.
oh God,
Like
that's all
literally,
everybody
it
talks about.
blows people's minds when they're like, "You don't watch the news?" I'm like, "No, you're about to tell me exactly what
Yeah,
happened. I don't
exactly
need
what's going
to
on. And
know."
that they've been talking about every day for the past 7 months. You'll tell me in
Hmm.
2 seconds. I don't need to see it.
Hmm.
And then social media, like, but I go on it for stuff that I need to be on there for. So I maybe use it at most, I would say maybe an hour a week.
Yeah,
That's it. And you don't,
exactly.
and you know what? You can be perfectly fine without it. Like,
But
but
I'll
you,
be out of the loop. And it's like, yeah, you'll
who
be out of the
cares?
depressed, anxious,
Yeah.
stress-filled loop.
And you know what's funny? People will
Who
still show
wants to
you
be
the
part of
funny
that loop?
videos. You'll still see the funny clips. But
Yeah.
it's also helpful too, I think, to let people know, like if the news really stresses you out and somebody in your house is like a news actor, let them know. Be like, dude, that really like I don't like watching it. It makes me uncomfortable. Like, I'm not gonna watch it with you. Just go do something else, right? You have that power to do something else. You don't have to sit there.
And it's so crazy. Like I see people taking videos and pictures and everything of stuff that they're doing. They're not even paying attention to what they're doing, but it's like crazy because they're competing to get the approval of people who really don't care.
Yeah, and
Like
don't know them at all.
everybody's just competing for this approval that nobody's going to give them. And it's just like the sooner you realize that, I think the
You know
better
what
off
always
you can
helped me a
be.
lot was I always loved the existentialists because like Camus and stuff, especially Nietzsche, like they just thought we die and that this is our one life. And for them, like the one reason why I like that is it sounds really depressing, but Camus said like, you have this like basically you have this one shot. And guess what? Nothing matters when you're gone. All this BS you're worried about doesn't matter. Doesn't make a difference once you're gone. So
Yeah.
start thinking of it that way can be
Even,
very
yeah,
freeing because you can start to realize that, hey, I could just do what I want. Start taking care of this stuff. Who gives a shit? Because really, it doesn't matter.
yeah.
You
Even
know?
this concern about like building a legacy and doing all
Doesn't
like
matter.
I
No
look at
control
my
over it.
grand yeah, I
Yeah.
look at my grandparents because they did a whole bunch of stuff and still they're gone and nobody cares. And
Nope.
it's just like that's gonna be me. So why do I let it get to me?
Well, exactly. And like it doesn't even matter how much you achieve. Like I mentioned this before, but like and I'll say it again, like I think I've probably mentioned Steve Jobs more in the past 2 months than anybody's thought about him in like 5 years. Do you know what I mean? But
Yep.
like he's
Yeah.
somebody who got earned a ton of money, super famous in his lifetime, and guess what? Nobody gives a shit. We moved on
Yep.
to other people, and he's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah,
He'll
dude,
be
in
a
a
footnote.
hundred years or less, nobody's gonna care about Elon Musk or Jeff
Nope.
Bezos or
At
anything.
most, like Steve Jobs might get a footnote in some weird tech museum, creator of iPod or so, whatever.
Yeah,
Like that's it.
exactly. And
Yeah.
that's it.
But these are things too, I think, where like it's just sad because philosophy can help people so much. Like, recognizing what's in our control and what's not. I think that dichotomy of control can be so empowering for people. Realizing like, that this is your life. Nobody else is gonna live it for you. And guess what? At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what you do. So start living your life and being present and forget about all this BS that's just trying to distract you from your own life and make you live somebody else's life. It's really all it's trying to do.
Yeah,
Yeah. Again, it's
cool.
easier said than done too, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely haven't perfected it.
No. Hopefully that helps a little bit though. You want to add anything?
No, that's all.
All right. So thanks again, Mike W. Hopefully that helps you a little bit. If you guys have episode suggestions, let us know. You can email us. It's in the show notes, or you can leave a comment on YouTube. That's fine too. Watch on YouTube or listen wherever you get your podcast. This is the Existential Stoic Podcast. We'll be back later with another episode. Until then, later, Randy.
Later, Danny.